FaceTime videos, but evidently I fell asleep again. And I don't feel like actually working on my project, which is back yonder. So we're going to talk about the electronic side. I will talk a little bit about the Lightwave side. And something else that's talking to me. You know, sometimes we seem to get these ideas about things, you know. I'm just going to take my picture and put it over here while this music is playing right here. And just kind of set it right next to my little pyramid picture. I gotta set the video, set my stream. I'm a musician, so it was kind of set up to look at that, I guess. I've got my my Indiana Jones hat on. Let's bring some light into the picture, as they say. So back here is my lab. Yeah, it doesn't come in very good, does it? Such is life. That's the way it goes. So I've sort of, well, update. Okay, so I can't think right now. Wait till I get my stream set up here. We're gonna look at some electronic circuits. I thought about running my circuit program. I probably could do that and do something useful. Like I should be going back to bed, but I just grabbed some sleep, you know. Where the hell am I? Oh yeah, right here. So I'm, you know, except for my sleep cycle, which is kind of messed up right now, and some other things in life, I consider myself fairly happy with what's going on with everything. There was almost a part of me where, well, not really, but I mean, there was sort of a part like, I'm like, I just don't want to do this because it's turning into a lot of work. Now, there are sort of things that can get into the way in the way. Like I need food. I have my snack here. Get my stream set up. They say these. Okay, this is weird shit happening right now. In the last day or two. Now, I don't necessarily talk about religion, okay? I don't like to talk about religion, but the fact of the matter is, I was brought up with a religious upbringing, okay? And, there's nothing wrong with it. I absolutely don't condone it, you know? had a certain particular belief once back in the day, and I was at a stage in my life where I was very influential, let's say. I mean, I was very influenced. We all have that stage, right? That's just the way it goes. Shit happens, man. I really want that microphone in my face. So there's this aspect of some biblical thing about God and the Ark of the Covenant and so on and so forth. I guess they said that, maybe the Ark of the Covenant, or my sort of belief was maybe there was a possibility that that the Ark contained some kind of very highly radioactive material, and that's, according to the story, that's what was killing all these people, because all these people, they got really sick, according to the story. People just got really sick and they died. Well, that's what happens when you have radioactive poisoning. And somehow they knew how to carry this thing and protect it and whatever and so on. And then they knew it was dangerous and they wanted to get rid of it and so on and so forth. And supposedly King Solomon, I don't know why I'm saying that, I'm not really sure, that he got a hold of it and then they got rid of it. And there's stories that it ended up in Africa and wherever, right? So the Ark of the Covenant, why I bring this up, and I don't mean to say that any of this is based on any kind of truth. I have read the Bible. I had the Christian upbringing, okay? And so I had points in my life where I had questions, and I felt that the answers to my questions were in the Bible, even though my religious belief was questioning itself. Well, as it turns out, I discovered many things in the Bible not related to Christianity, but actually related to visitations from otherworldly beings. And they talk about a lot of that, a lot of the different or some of the different older cultures, the Mayans, the Sumerians. If you go back and look at the history, they talk about not necessarily creation, but they talk about visitations from aliens or whatever. And even the Mayans, they've got these pictures of alien ships and stuff. Ancient astronauts, the Nazca lines. I mean, there's stories out there, okay? So there's that business. Why did I just lose everything? Okay, I see what I'm doing. I just wanted to turn down this music a little bit here. So the Ark of the Covenant, what we're gonna do, because it's what I do, I guess I'm gonna make my picture small and put it down here in the tent, and then we're going to go ahead and grab this here, which is really not the right one. I'm gonna grab this picture here. I'm gonna put this back over here. And we're gonna do a little bit of historical research and lead up to why something's happening in part of my project, which I just I'm thinking, oh, maybe I could do this, and maybe this needs to be part of the project and everything else. And then there's some reasoning behind why it should be done and why it should not be done. And then something else comes along and just adds a little bit more, not necessarily fuel to the fire, but probably more confusion, I guess. I don't know. Who knows these things, right? It's me besides my little tent. That's some electronic stuff. We're gonna go through the electronic circuits. So talk about the update itself. I haven't had a chance to do much of anything in the last 4 or 5 days because I haven't felt the heat was really getting to me, and I didn't feel so good. I've been a little bit needlessly stressed out about something. So anyway, I have to gain my composure, and I have to get out there, and I've got to keep going. It's like, I will tell you, and I will even show you. With this stuff back here, this is floating, ain't it? This stuff is my life. I've always taken things apart, putting them back together. Shit, there's something really small shit in there that I can't even see what they are. But these little component, it's like you've got these little integrated circuits and everything, and people are sort of like born and given to do certain things in life, and I was born to learn electronics, and I got electronics a lot back in behind me. You can't even really see nothing. You can't even see me, which is a good thing. And I have amassed everything I need in order to do what I need to do over the years. Collected things. I've had this idea about something, and as time progressed, the last probably 20 years, I'm 60-ish, and I've had experiences, I've had dreams, I've had astral travels, I've had what I believe communication from outside of my own brain. There's part of me that doesn't necessarily believe in any of it, but unfortunately, there's also a part of me that is pulling me and wanting me to do certain things because my whole life is leading up to something. And it's like, well, you've got people saying, telling you, okay, well, everything that's been done has been done. What could you possibly discover that could benefit mankind? And they're talking about, for example, some of these discoveries, So, getting back to the Ark of the Covenant, we're going to go in here, and we are going to do a little bit of research about some stuff, and hopefully it won't be that long so I can get to the point of what I'm going to do. And I'm trying to remember what I'm supposed to do in the first place here. Oh, is this up? It's supposed to be on edge. My life is on edge. We'll deal with that one later. We're gonna start with this. We're gonna start with this Ark of the Covenant thing. So let's just go ahead and put in here. There are stories from some other religious beliefs about certain things. And it's kind of included, I suppose, in all of this. Generally, we go to the Wikipedia. So now there's another thing about regarding information. You know, you don't believe everything you see. Don't believe everything you read and all of that. And, you know, as someone who was also talking about the difference between truth, or not the difference, but the idea of truth and the idea of what is fact, okay? It's a fact that certain texts have been found, the Dead Sea Scrolls and whatever, and they were all added together, and the Bible came about. And we have 2 or 3, 4 or 5 different translations of the Bible. And in order to get the true meaning of what the Bible is trying to say, you got to go all the way back to the Hebrew text and whatever else, you know? I don't. Well, back in the day when I was of a religious belief, I had what's called a faith, okay? And so once that faith dissipated, once that type of faith dissipated, I was asking questions. I was questioning God, okay? Like, is there anything more? And you've heard this in movies and stuff. And so I had a very traumatic, extremely traumatic incident in my life. And I was in a situation where I was trying to understand these astral dreams and whether or not they were, what's going on with it, right? And so I'm going to make a long story short. I found the answer. I found answers in the Bible, okay? Supposedly, Christ himself, when maybe he was on the Sermon on the Mount or whatever, and he actually had said, if your eye is single, your body is full of light. And when I was at that traumatic state in my life and I was asking questions, I was questioning God, and I saw that statement, and I was like, what the hell? This explains, maybe not necessarily astral travel, but it definitely explains the route to astral travel. So basically, kind of in a nutshell, you learn clairvoyance. I learned clairvoyance. From that, I learned how to bring my body to a low state of consciousness and separate my spiritual body from its physical form and astral travel. There are 2 other statements that are mentioned in the Bible. One is called the golden bowl, and the other one is called the silver thread. I'm not going into that. I'm just telling you that's in the Bible, okay? So that's that part of it. A little bit more aspects of it. So then we've got this. We got this right here. This is what blew me away. And if it isn't enough, you know, I'm going to type this in. And also, I'm not sure if that actually comes up. There's many things in the Bible that relate to the next life. And one of those things is whatever happens on earth happens in heaven. It's like there's a mirror universe of things that are happening here. So, hey, I'm glad they're going to have ice cream in heaven, because I pretty much know that's going to be a thing now, right? If one believes in the Bible and such. I'm not making assumptions. What I'm doing is I'm talking about the relationship between um, the messages that are in the Bible that have to do with something that is not of a biblical nature. Well, it might be a biblical nature. It's like half and half, okay? It's because so many thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, whatever, they didn't really understand how to talk about something that they had no idea what it was. And so, lo and behold, comes the book of Ezekiel. All right. Now, there's another book. There's some other books and other stories. And I'm gonna put this in there. Now, another thing that happens too is like sometimes you can talk, and this is sort of like how mediums work. You know, they go into the spirit world and they connect and so on and so forth. And you know, that's all great and everything, but people in this world don't live on spirituality alone. You cannot. You can. God does not put food on your table. End of story. I don't care what. Okay. And God does not put food on many other people's table in this life. There's been wars and everything else. I don't really try to get away from that particular story, but the premise that God created the universe and everything else, you know, I kept thinking about that, and I said, no, this is not going to happen. The other things that have happened in my life and my studies of the Bible and so on and so forth, and I have read it like half a dozen times from beginning to end. Otherwise, I wouldn't be qualified to say anything about this. It's just crazy, you know. So did I do that right? Well, this is supposed to be over here, and that's supposed to be over there. All right, so there's this here. Let's go into this, and we're leading up to the Ark of the Covenant. But I just want to give you a little bit of background, a little bit of history that pointed me in a certain direction, and even before this, at this time of this traumatic incident. Well, this was actually, I had a different job, but I've been an electronics person for 50 years. And I consider myself an expert in audio to microwave electronics, radio waves, all that stuff. It's been a few years, you know, and there's just things that happen. And I actually I probably need to bring up MS Paint, because I'm probably going to get into that. You know, I've been doing all of this planning and research because my time has been late and everything. And so I was talking earlier about mediums and connecting to the spirit world and stuff. Sometimes there are certain people, and I've even noticed it myself, is that I'll be talking about something, and the idea of talking about a subject and whatever, what it can do is it can sidestep your brain. So like your brain is kind of focused on doing something and you're talking, you're just kind of saying things, and then all of a sudden you get these things come into your head. It's a type of mediumship thing. And you know, some people have picked up on this and they take advantage of it, and they decide they're gonna help other people, and other people give them all kinds of money and everything else. All these are just the best people, and they're connecting with people. I know for a fact I could do that if I wanted to. I have sort of that connection. If I didn't have that connection, then I wouldn't be doing this. There's pieces of the puzzle, okay? And you take all the little pieces. When you look at one of the pieces of the puzzle, you're not going to see the whole picture. So you have to put all these pieces of the puzzle together, and then you come up with a picture. This has been the story of my life for ever since the beginning, okay? I've been a musician since kindergarten, played all these different musical instruments. Music is part of all of this. Mathematics is part of all of this. Science is part of all of this. Spirituality is all part of this. Um, there is a connection. And one of those connections is popping into my head again. It's called universal language. Um, and it even comes from this movie Contact. And yes, we watch movies and they give us ideas and they tell us things and the movies put things into our head. And some of those things that these movies put into your head are very close to the truth. They're close to other people have these ideas and they're lucky enough to have all kinds of money and make a movie out of it. And the movie Contact is a good movie. I like it. It's got good ideas about things, about beings and beings from other universes creating wormholes, and we've done this for millions of years and we don't know who created these things, right? Well, so that's that aspect, and that's where my life was heading, and I knew that because I've had several dreams about aliens and spaceships and all that kind of good stuff, right? But that's the spiritual side, and in order to really understand that, the Bible helped me to understand what these aspects of spirituality were all about. And the idea of God itself was a problem for me. And so believe it or not, I had to ask the question and I had to find the answers in the Bible. The fact that I didn't even believe of this God that created some kind of massive universe and everything, that God's the creator of all things, I didn't believe it. And the fact that I actually had to go to the Bible to have the question answered is ironic. It's an ironic thing. And so the truth for me of the existence of what God was all about came to me in Revelations by reading the Christian version of the Bible, the King James version. It just, it's been translated, okay? I know all about all this stuff and everything else. But it's in there. It's in there. And it sent me on a road that I knew was going to get me someplace. So one of those things was this statement right here that's in, I know it's in the message, the letters to the apostles. Apostles were the devout followers of Christ, and they went on to carry his message and so on and so forth. Right here, let's see if this. In the Bible, King Jesus, often referred to as God, the Son of Christ, bestowed the keys. Remind you, this is plural. The keys to the kingdom of heaven upon Simon Peter. Peter is one of God's closest followers, and so on and so forth. So, the idea of keys tells you that there's more than one door. Well, if heaven is only one place, there's supposed to be only one door, and when you pass on, you go to the judgment, you talk to the judge and say you're either in or you're out, Okay. I'm not going to get into religious theosophy and all of that, theology, whatever. I'm just going to try to get into the basics of it. So when I read this, I said to myself, well, there's more than one door, then there's more than one, I'm not going to call it heaven, but there's more than one aspect. They could all be at the same levels of heaven or whatever, or they could be different levels or whatever. I don't know. let's just take a look at this really quick and see what we're going to glean out of this, and try to make this as quick as possible, right? So we've got different traditions. The keys to the kingdom of heaven. Okay, so we can actually look that up in the wiki. Represents Peter's supreme authority and leadership over the church. Power to bind and loose, yada yada. To make binding doctrinal decisions and govern the church on the earth. Protestant interpretation. Many Protestant view, and I've never read any of this, okay, I'm just saying, view the keys as a metaphor for the proclamation of the gospel. Yada. From this viewpoint, keys represent the authority to open the door to heaven for others. No, that's not true, because there's more than one key. Unless he's got to have a half a dozen keys to open one door. I like Get Smart, okay? When he starts his movie. That's pretty cool. He goes through all the doors and stuff. He's got to type in the code for each one. He goes through each door. He gets a higher security level. Goes to the next one. He gets another higher security level. Okay, maybe it's something like that. You know, you have learned something, and it says in the Bible, God will only give you so much information that you can handle at that point. He may give you some more, like your cup may runneth over. Okay, and so, like your cup runneth over, it could be information overload, right? You can't handle it. And this is what happens. You get all this information, and you can only filter out so much stuff, and you learn from that, and then you forget about everything else. And this stuff comes back to you 5, 10, 15 years later. This is what devout, this is part of the devout Catholic type of upbringing, is where they study and learn and everything else, and they go deep into theology and all that kind of stuff. How does it, we're trying to help people that don't have any kind of religious faith, because it doesn't help society, you know? And here we are with these religious faiths, and everybody's killing each other. So yeah, go figure. Anyway, by preaching the message of salvation, binding and loosing, referring to God's forgiveness, and so on and so forth, historical fulfillment. When Peter opened the door to the kingdom of heaven to the Jews. All right, so it says, he's saying that they allowed the door to the kingdom to the Jews at Pentecost, to the Samaritans, to the Gentiles, which is like the Americans, the people that are not in and of that immediate Christian Jewish faith, and so on and so forth, allowing them, opening the door to all people in the church, so on and so forth. Well, let's just go pop to this little wiki and see what it says here. Refers to metaphorical keys to the office of St. Peter, keys to the gates of heaven, keys to the kingdom of heaven. It is explicitly referenced in Matthew 16:19, and so it will go on and tell you some things. There are other religious doctrines that have certain other beliefs about explaining their references to these things. So for me, I think I think there are aspects of religious doctrine that relate to the spiritual side of things that happen on the spiritual side that nobody really understands. Okay, they get the information, they interpret it how they interpret it in that time of day, that time of the year of when they live. So it's like, I have a life, I live 50 years, and I go through all this process to learn something. Now comes along religious doctrine, and it's not like it takes one lifetime. It takes many, 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 many lifetimes. And, so there's some aspects that tell me that there's something else going on. And when I read this, I said to myself, okay, there's definitely something going on here, and it's not of a religious context. It's something else. It's very similar to let's see. Let me think here. Let's look at this right here. Let me see if I can find what I'm looking for. Possibly this right here. We have supposedly these states of consciousness, and these are in some of the little bit more leaning towards the spiritual side and less towards the religious side. You got the waking, the dreaming, the deep sleep. It's really not what I'm looking for. Let's do this right here. Now, I will tell you from my own experience that astral travel is a real thing. When I have had this dream that's called the astral dream, and I wake up, I felt like I've been someplace. And let me tell you, it is as real as just walking into another room. And I've had some strange ones, believe me. This one's a little bit more complicated. It talks about the different astral sort of planes of existence. My interpretation of it is there is a mental and there's a spiritual state. I think there are some states of consciousness that are actually separate from going into the astral plane. So leading up to the astral, you could have like you have this clairvoyance, and you calm your mind and you get information coming in and you focus and so you go back and forth, and eventually you've developed a state of consciousness. And so I'm not going to give that a name or anything. So then what you do is I sleep, I fall asleep, and what I imagine that my spiritual body looks like me and it floats up, okay? It separates. The act of separation supposedly is, you hear stories about people going into the light, and they say there's the tunnel, and then they go into the light, and then poof, they're in another plane of existence, and so on and so forth. So that tunnel is not actually, it may be part of going into where they're going, but it's actually not part of it, because what happens is when the person comes back from that astral travel or that state, that's the most vivid part, because it's the most difficult part to get to that state. Now, after so many years, there is no tunnel for me. I just go to the different levels. I'm just there. And I don't experience the tunnel, because when you come back, it's when you come back that you experience the tunnel. And if it's very difficult for you to get back into your body, that's usually when the tunnel state is the most vivid. It's because your spiritual body can't assimilate with your physical, and that's when you wake up, you find yourself that you're paralyzed. The reason of this paralysis is because your spiritual body has not reconnected to your physical. I don't know why I'm talking about this, but hey. So there's memory. Each different part of your body has memory. Somebody said, oh, there's no memory. It's just your brain and whatever. No, I'm sorry, but you're wrong, okay? The truth and the fact of the matter is that all of the different organs that are created inside of your body have their own memory structure. And proof of that is muscles. Okay, you've heard of muscle memory, right? Well, the heart is a muscle. It's got its own type of cell. It's different from a regular muscle. They both have memory. All right, so if the heart has memory, that goes to assume that all the other organs in the body have this capability of memory. And so when the astral form reassimilates back into the body, in order to remember the entire dream, you have to stay in that paralysis state so that your body assimilates, and then you collect the different pieces of the puzzle, and you put the puzzle together, and then you remember the dream. Then you better write it down, because if you don't, as soon as you wake up 5 minutes later, bam, it's gone. And so you hear these stories about these alien abductions and everything. When the people come back, they feel like they don't remember it. They know something's happened, but they don't remember it. Why is that? So on and so forth. So, yes, movies are an influence, okay? And so one of the great movies of all time, Indiana Jones and the Ark of the Covenant. Good movie. It's a good movie. And they say in the movie that the Ark of the Covenant was used as a messenger to God. That the Ark was actually a communications device to God. That's what they kind of talked about in that movie. Well, yes and no. Regardless, we've got this idea. So, like I said here, there's different states and so on and so forth. Um, this this dream states that are in existence are extremely very real. I'm not going to say that none of this is fact or it's truth or whatever. I'm just going to say from my own experience that I have experienced different levels of astral travel. And the next level that you get into, you're like further away from the physical form, and then you realize, you get this realization that tells you you're dead. Okay? Oh my God, I've died and gone. And I'm like, I want to go back. I want to go back. No, I don't want to do this. I want to go back. I feel like I died, right? And you get scared. There's a very large fear factor that happens, and so, once you get into this, it takes a few years to stop it, and that's kind of what I wasn't ready for certain things. Anyway, let's type in here. In the Bible, the Ark of the Covenant is not a messenger itself, but rather the earthly throne and a localized place of God's presence, so on and so forth. Talks about the mercy seat, the Holy of Holies, communication that whenever Moses or subsequent leaders like Joshua needed to divine direction, they would go before the Lord at the ark to receive God's guidance, and so on and so forth. They talk about the contents of the Bible, so on and so forth. If you're looking for an actual angelic or prophetic messengers who delivered words of God concerning the ark, a few figures stand out. Moses, angels, the cherubim, the winged figures atop the mercy seat itself, which represents the guardians of God's holiness, Levites and the high priests, messengers who carried the ark and intercede on behalf of the people, so on and so forth. This AI crap, don't really talk too much about it. And, everybody's going to have their own ideas about what it is and everything else. When Moses went on top of the mountain, it talks about the burning bush. There's fire involved, whatever that is. There was an experiment that was discovered, I guess it was back in the 80s or 90s or something, that you could, I'm not going to do the video, but you can take two piezo devices, and you put them on either side of a flask, a glass flask, and you put water in there, and you heat up the water or something, or whatever. You degas the water first, so that when you pour the water in, there's no bubbles. It has a less of a chance for little bubbles to get created. And so what they've done was they took two frequencies. Oh no, they took one frequency and they created the standing wave feature, which is what we talk about in my cavity that's in this part of the interferometer. Standing waves are a thing. They're a mechanical amplifier. Let's put it that way. A standing wave is a mechanical amplifier. So if you want to listen to something and you have a certain level and you want to make that level bigger, you put it in an area where it is vibrates at a louder sound. So if you wanted to listen to a tone that's let's say it's 60 hertz, you you could have a big tube, a big cylindrical tube that's kind of like maybe this big around and that long, and you put it up to your ear, and you can send this 60 hertz in there, and it will vibrate the tune, the cylinder, vibrate the cylinder itself, because the cylinder is part of that. It's called resonance, and resonance and standing waves cause things to explode. They cause not so good things, you know. I mean, there's more energy. That's the most energy of a certain state is that standing wave resonant feature that's used in electronics, it's used in mechanics, it's used in all different kinds of things, probably in nature everywhere. So we have this bit of information as part of the puzzle, and we just kind of set it over here. Okay, we've learned this, we believe that it's very true, we've seen it happen, and so on and so forth. And I get detracted away from my original conversation. So what they did was they vibrated this thing at 27 kilohertz, and I did a little research on it. And then what they would do is they'd take a little like a injector needle, and they would put the needle down into the water really quick, and they'd pop an air bubble. They would put like a little bubble of air in the middle between these two vibrating things here. And so this is all on YouTube, whatever. It's called sonoluminescence. And so some people, that's what they call it. And so what happens, the bubble is suspended. It kind of bounces around a little bit, and you've got this frequency going back and forth. That's the resonant frequency of this jar of water. And so then what they do, once it's in there and it's all stabilized, I guess there's another part of it, like maybe at the bottom or on the side. It's like a wire, and at the end of this wire it heats up, and what it does is it creates little bubbles or something. I don't know what it does. I didn't really understand that part of it, why that was even in there. But the little bubbles can come up and whatever, and they coalesce in the middle, and the bubble gets bigger. And eventually what happens is when you increase the level of the frequency going in, the bubble will get a little bit bigger, and then what happens, it contracts on itself. And they're saying that the temperature when it contracts is twice as much as the temperature of the sun. It's more energy of a black hole. This is just something in water, right? We've created something that's more energy. Just layman people can do this. We got this miles long, millions and millions of dollars worth of LIGO and accelerators and particle accelerators and stuff. And here we go. We've got this less than $100, and you can build them. You can make a black hole, you know. And when it explodes, this is the key. When the little bubble contracts and it explodes, it does a little explosion. There's a flash of light. And now they say this flash of light creates 500,000 photons. Because it's really small. Photons are really little, and boom, you know. It's like, wow, maybe this is God related, you know. It's like some of these other movies with making these. There's the Star Trek movie where the guy takes the little injector thing, and he goes in and he pulls out the little red matter from the big ball of red matter, and it can go in and destroy a whole star. Okay. That was a part of a movie, a Star Trek movie. And then there's the other one where the Catholic Church was sort of like they were spending some money looking for the God particle and all that kind of stuff, you know. The idea, now I don't know of any other idea that's out there where you can take this the standing wave, put the bubble in there, and the bubble explodes, and all of a sudden you get this flash of light. I don't know of any other place that and the scientists can't really explain it. They don't really have the idea of how this happens. And then I'm thinking, oh, wow, I should probably incorporate that into my interferometer experiment. And, and I'm like, think about this, okay? Like, it could go in the center of this tube I got. I am building this tuning cavity, which is going to have a standing wave, and it's also going to have some electromagnetic tests going around this tuning cavity. And lo and behold, we got this experiment where when you do this and you pop a bubble in there, you can make this bubble explode, and you've got you got this flash of light, right? Well, the existence of this flash of light only lasts for like picoseconds. It's like a very quick thing, and the light thing explodes, whatever, and it's gone, and it repeats itself. Every so often it goes boom, it goes boom, it comes back, and a boom, it comes back. The relationship between that and what I'm trying to do, I don't believe there's a connection. The fact that that particular experiment exists, combined with the fact of the way I'm setting up my experiment with my interferometer and the tuning cavity, may be more than a coincidence. But that's adding a level of complexity to my setup, which I probably could do, but I would not understand the reason for it. Maybe when this explosion happens, each time it happens, it sends out information, and so each time that information, that could be that little bubble explosion could be the connector between dimensions, for all we know. It could be the actual connector that opens up the portal in that short amount of time, just enough for information to come through. And so what we do is we take a picture of it, or whatever, and each of those pictures, you add all those pictures together, and then you get a whole picture of something. That's an idea. It's not my idea, and I have no idea how my idea is going to work. I just know that I'm doing a certain thing, and then when it gets all put together, that I go in and say, okay, I'm discovering something brand new here. I feel very excited about it. And so when I saw this experiment, I'm like, okay, that's the flash of light. I'm thinking to myself about this movie, The Ark of the Covenant, with Indiana Jones, whatever, and the messenger to God kind of thing, and they're saying, no, it's not really that. Well, the description of the cherubim with these angels are crossed on top of the lid, okay? Let's do this. See if we can get a picture of it. All right, so these are all the so-called pictures of the description of the Ark of the Covenant, and you can see that the angels' wings are pointed towards each other, and they're very close to each other. Then you've got the story of all of the people dying and getting sick, okay? So when you put all these little pieces of the puzzle together, if there is radioactivity inside of this chest, if there's this humongous amounts of energy inside this chest, and the people carrying this thing realize they know how to use it as a weapon, and they could make this thing arc. Maybe they could push a button or something, and these wings would arc and send out electricity or whatever and kill all the people or whatever, whatever that was all about. All we have to go on is the description of how the ark was built, and it's in there. It's a pretty good description of how the thing was built. Now, I don't know about the wings themselves coming together and how close they were and that kind of thing. But the idea, when you think about it in terms of creating an electric field, it's right there. If you have an energy source that's there, maybe you need some way the energy needs to be able to dissipate every so often, and so maybe every so often these wings, and these were made of gold, by the way, which is not very corrosive, and it can handle all of these high voltage sparks without deteriorating. So maybe, and this thing, they built this thing supposedly, and they melted all the gold, and they built this thing, and so on. And maybe God told them to build it, and whatever. I think that's a story. And so maybe this thing had this energy in it, and every so often these things would arc. They could just arc due to static electricity. Maybe this was a real thing. Maybe it really did create an arc. Maybe it was a positive and it was a minus, like a battery, a great big huge ass nuclear battery. All right, and maybe God was explaining to them how to make electricity, and so they were giving them a form of information, and it was up to them in order to figure it out. We're not just going to tell you, because you're not going to understand. It's going to be way over your head for that time. They've had these, the Egyptians did have these jars or something that's so-called make electricity and so on. So, what if electricity was related somehow, or maybe not? It doesn't really matter. And so, I read about this experiment, and this whole thing, and nose itches. This whole thing could be a detraction. It could be something that's taking my time away from the real project. And because I believe the possibility that there are entities out there that do not want you to convey certain types of information because the world's not ready for it, or nobody's going to care, or anything else. It doesn't really matter, because there's people that says, okay, this is just an entertainment thing. What purpose does it serve? This little bubble suspended in the water with this standing wave is a very good explanation of something in science. So why would you not want to say that why would you say this is not relevant to anything? It is of no use, it has no information value. That's totally bogus. Okay, some of these people are your total 1,000,000% skeptic people that just want to come out there and put people down, say, oh, you're not doing anything that's already been done, or whatever. We've discovered more things in the last 100 years, more information that's been created in the last 5 or 10 years. We've discovered more things than we have in the last 50. The information explosion is exponential. It's just going up crazy. It really is. We are growing circuits now. We're not just designing the circuit and placing the circuit. We are actually growing the circuit on a nano scale, on a wavelength scale of light. We're growing circuits. That is just crazy. We can now grow storage in glass that's like this small, that contains 360 terabytes of data. Lo and behold, we got the Superman movie with going back to get the information about his family from the crystals. Then we've got physics that talks about entanglement and information going from point A to point B with absolutely nothing in between. Then we have the photon, which has all of the information of the entire puzzle, and it also has a piece of the puzzle. Now that is some crazy shit. And then we've got people saying that the photon is a massless object. The photon is a result of an interaction of something. And I'm sort of starting to agree with that kind of assessment, that the photon is not really a particle, is that it's an information carrier. Either way, okay, this is a carrier of information. If it's a result of an interaction, it is something, okay, and that something is information. But the fact that the photon carries a part of the puzzle, which is like one dot, and it contains the entire puzzle, how is that possible? It's possible because it's a linear, it's a translation, not a translation. It's a function that goes in time. It goes left to right. Time is present. It goes from the present to the future. Well, here's the dilemma. Photons are separate particles. Boom, 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 boom. And sometimes they say they're groups of particles. And so, problem is that the previous photon needs to know what the future proton is going to do before it does it. And the reason for that is so it doesn't follow the same path that the future photon goes. It's like sitting there looking, okay, you're going that way, I'm going to go this way. Now, that's the mystery right there. How does that previous photon know that future photon's going to go here so he can go over there? That has to happen. And it does happen. It's a fact of life. All these little photon things, they go in there and they draw, it takes time. It takes a matter of time, and then once all the photons are there, they make this picture. But they do it at the speed of light, so it happens very fast. And that's the wave nature of photons. So we could say my aspect of my belief, not my belief, but my aspect and my informational aspect of this is that a photon is a particle, and it behaves like a particle, and it also behaves like a wave. So that's that story. You have to understand both the natures of both in order to kind of understand the whole picture. But you don't really need to really understand it. You take it on faith, because these are the things that have been presented to you. You take all this information and you want to figure out, if you're curious enough and if you're destined to do a certain thing, eventually you're going to see the whole puzzle and say, hey, you have become illuminated. You saw the light. You've seen the truth. The truth will set you free. Woo! I'm just kidding there. But that's the truth. That's a fact. If you go in and you build pieces of a puzzle, say, wow, this is a beautiful picture, okay? And you feel enlightened. So this idea of the spark creating light, the idea of creating light in this resonant field. It's a resonant field. This is all something that's in religious texts. They talk about some of this stuff, more than likely. I don't know if they do or not, but they talk about a lot of things. And so, what if electricity is this relationship, and maybe this spark that they create in this water, maybe this is the thing. Maybe it's not the fact that we can accelerate electrons and protons into other particles and make them explode and see other particles, and take those particles and send them around and use them to explode something else, and go further down a rabbit hole and keep blowing things up and find the God particle. What if the God particle is simple as a standing wave, and boom, a portal is opened, and it's up to you to know how to use that portal, right? My setup that I'm building is actually perfect for this. And at first I was thinking I could use it as the test object in the interferometer, and let the flash of light come in. It's going to light happen, and so my normal light wave comes in, it goes through the mirrors and the beam splitters and everything, and it goes into the second mirror, and it gets bouncing off constantly at this speed, and then all of a sudden you do the experiment and the flash of light happens. And so as the interferometer light is going at the speed of light, it's going to have an interaction with this. If 500,000 photons are created, that's a shit ton of information that's just sitting there, nowhere to go, right? That's 500,000 pieces of a puzzle. And we already know, I've already explained, that one photon carries all of the information of the complete puzzle. You heard it here, okay? Um, you've got to take all the little photons, you got to put them together to see the whole picture. So, they've taken pictures of it and it's everything. It doesn't really mean anything, yada, yada, yada. It's a big deal. That's what these people say. Why in the hell am I doing this? Why am I have this idea about something. And so why is this picture coming into play? Well, not necessarily, I've got the standing wave thing and I'm using this experiment as a test object. I could actually take this experiment, put it inside my tuning chamber, and I can create the experiment in my tuning chamber. Now, this tuning chamber is something interesting because something's happening in there that I've designed that is a little bit different and so on and so forth. It's just, I don't know, like I want to do that aspect of the experiment first, and then if I can get to that point and I can get a focal point inside that tuning cavity of a certain standing wave, and that standing wave happens with light. It doesn't happen with sound. Sound is 27 kilohertz. That's what they've used. 40 kilohertz, yada, yada, yada. You can use any frequency you want, and you can suspend something. And I wanted to do an experiment with ultrasonics, and I've got the styrofoam particles, the little styrofoam things. And so they can take a styrofoam particle with a forceps, and they can put it in the field, and you could even see that with the slurring. Okay, there's the slurring thing. We could set up the field with that, and you can actually see the field, and you know exactly where to put the styrofoam particle, and it's going to float there in midair. And you can put one in each of the resonant sections of the standing wave. And there's like half a dozen, right? You can take that little styrofoam thing, kind of set it in there and let go, and it's going to levitate. Okay, they've done this. So, yeah, this was discovered, I don't know, 1880, I guess. This dude discovered it. So, there's that aspect, right? So anyway, that's the whole story about it. I don't even know why I kind of was talking about that. I'm talking about electricity. I'm talking about maybe there's a relationship between electricity and whatever God is, okay? Maybe that part of it. So it's a story. It's a little bit of history. It talks about the reasoning behind it makes a connection between religion and history and theology and science. It connects the two together. I think it's a good connection. There's also this other book here. It's called this Book of Enoch, and there's some stuff here which is a little bit off the side. I don't know why the Book of Enoch over here has got a picture of what looks like Bigfoot over here. So there's different stories that have happened, and they've written things, and I don't know how much of the scientific information is included in that, but yeah, that's all of that, So we've got electricity. We've got the spark, this so-called spark of light. That's how they felt that the Big Bang was created. Well, where did the Big Bang come from? I don't want to really get into all that, but yeah, that's that story. So that's sort of an update of my setup. Right now I'm working on my lenses. I'm working on holders for my lenses, and I'm just now realizing that the lens system inside of the tuning cavity is the lens is in a solid piece of material. And so if I want to cool that liquid, the lens is going to expand, and because it's on that hard material that I spent freaking hours and hours on cutting and polishing and making that little groove so the lens can go in there. And it's not going to work, and I need something big. And then I've discovered that materials will do what's called outgassing if you have a high state vacuum. My vacuum system in my enclosure is not going to be like a very intense vacuum such that crap's going to start outgassing. And one of my tuning cavity is actually made of PVC, and so I've discovered that in a vacuum PVC will outgas, and so you can get rid of that. You can cook these things in an oven, and then it gets rid of the toxicity stuff that's in there, and then you put it in the cold, and you do it back and forth. And what you're doing is you're condensing the material so that when you're going to use it in the vacuum, it doesn't outgas. That's a thing. My level of vacuum inside of the system is only to allow the difference in temperature change to become a little bit more to happen a little bit quicker. If everything is set at room temperature and you want to go from 10 to you want to go from say 25 degrees to 15 degrees C, then it takes a long time for the area to stabilize. You have to have a stable everything, stable pressure, stable frequency, stable everything has just got to be, and you can work with your frequencies and stuff and kind of get that stable as the temperature is going down, and then you can control the temperature. Then you have this feedback loop. I wanted to talk about systems last night. I never got into it, but you have a system. If something happens over here and it's not working, it's kind of oscillating a little bit, you have a feedback loop that goes in and it controls that oscillation. It slows it down until it stops. That's called a dampened wave. It's a big wave that gets smaller and smaller and smaller over time, and there's an actual formula that's part of nonlinear equations, and you can calculate what the feedback energy amount is in the system. And with mechanical, electronic, you can put all those things together, and you can say, okay, I need this, and I need this in order for this to happen. So I don't really know what's going to happen in the entire system, but I do know that temperature is a part of it. And if I don't want to put too much electronics into this thing, but a lot of the electronics need to be discrete components, not integrated circuits. I am going to use an integrated circuit, it turns out, to create a standard, and I have to try to make a discrete circuit that's comparable to the IC circuit in order to get a better standard. It's like a reference thing, and how to create another reference thing in order to, you got to start with like the master copy, and then you go in and you work on it, and you create another master copy until you get to a point where this is your level of, this is how far you can go with your lab. You can't go any further because you don't have a better controlled setting. I don't believe I need to have a completely controlled setting like that, because I've already had experiences and equipment that does certain things that I'm able to get the information from. So I don't believe I have to be that quite sophisticated. But with light, it's a little bit different than just audio signals. It's a very, very narrow thing. And the fact that this narrow thing is able to contain 12 other narrow things in this narrow thing, and each one of the 12, something else just popped into my head. And there was some other strange freaking anomalies happening with the speed of light that I talked about last night. The number of the speed of light came up somewhere in something. It came up in the photon multiplier. The way they put the minus 100, minus 200, and so on down to minus, I think it was 1200. And what's really ironic is that supposedly there's 12 good apostles and one apostle. Was there 12 apostles? Wait, how many apostles were there? I think there was 12. Numbers is a weird thing. There was 12. One apostle for each of the 12 tribes, okay, of Israel, and so on and so forth. And so there's every other section creates a number of photon collections, photon multiplier. So it goes up in the stage, and some of the photon multiplications were actually the speed of light number. I noticed that, like, what? This is crazy, you know. There are some things in nature, there are some things that the Great Pyramid has got certain numbers associated with it. These numbers go off into infinity. They are not a replica number that goes 1.14141414. That goes off into infinity, yeah. But there's numbers that the decimal number changes and it goes off into infinity. So the idea of infinity is also what this interferometer experiment is all about. Being able to combine two pictures into one plane, and that plane, the two pictures is going to have a border like this. So this border represents chaos and complexity, and you've got to move these things back and forth, like to a point where you can control a state of existence and have that state of existence include an infinity which is confined. The infinite space is in a confined space, and you go in there and you try to extract information from it. What can I say? And so aspects of this could be done. You take a picture, and you're taking pictures. You're not making a movie, but you could make a movie and then go every 30 frames, well, I suppose, or you could have a $5,000 camera and take 1,000 frames per second, and you'd get a better picture. Or you could just do, it doesn't matter, you know, you take a picture, you take these pictures, and the pictures may be out of place, you know. They may be, if it's recycled, eventually over time, addition of all the pictures is going to make the complete puzzle. It may be like the first picture could be here, the second one could be over here, but eventually the pictures are going to align themselves within a certain range, and maybe that range is the standing wave range, okay? And so eventually all of the pictures of all the slices will get filled in, and then you can look at the picture in a three-dimensional form, and that's what the end result of this. That's the video portion of supposedly of what you're supposed to do, what I'm supposed to do. And each of these 12 sections in this Lightwave, the Lightwave is the carrier, and the section, which is 10 to 25 nanometers wide, is called a bandwidth. And within that bandwidth, you can have 12, don't ask me how this number came up, but you can have 12 1 gigahertz sections. And so each 1 gigahertz section can contain hundreds and hundreds of audio channels and video channels, because like the video channel is 4 megahertz. The audio channel is 4 kilohertz. These are all small numbers, and you can add those numbers onto a carrier. A carrier, the first carrier is like 455 kilohertz. You take that carrier, you add it onto another carrier, which is maybe it's 1 megahertz, and you take that carrier and you add that onto another carrier, which is like 10 megahertz or 14 megahertz. That's your final output carrier. You build an antenna that resonates. It resonates on the carrier that you want to transmit. 20-meter band. You build a dipole. It's called a dipole. You got two wires that come up, two wires that go across. That wire creates a standing wave, people. It has to be a certain length, and there's a formula for that. If the wire was not the standing wavelength, you could still send out the signal, but it would be very weak. If you cut the antenna so that it's the standing wave of the frequency that you want to send, all of a sudden the signal level goes way up. That's your transmitted signal level. Transmitted and received signal level on a standing wave antenna. Well, guess what? The tuning cavity that we're talking about, which is called a Fabry-Perot interferometer type of a thing, I call it a tuning cavity, is such that you can create a standing wave inside of it. You take two mirrors, one on each end, and you position one of the mirrors in such a way that the light goes back and forth at an integer number of standing waves. And you can visualize those. So now you have an interferometer that's tuned, because the tuning cavity is outside of the interferometer. You tune the interferometer, and you see the fringes, and I know how to set that up. I haven't done it yet, but hopefully I can do it. Once it's tuned and all the mirrors and the beam splitters are all in their correct position, and they have to be such whatever, right? My house, my place is very quiet. It's not very susceptible to movement and stuff like that. But I am preparing this setup for some critical stuff. So I'm actually doing something with the lenses to help prevent vibration and stuff. So the tuning cavity, you create the standing wave or standing waves. And like I said before, with the other experiment, there's a chance to drop a bubble in there and make it float and turn up that level of intensity and make it explode. And you can do it multiple times. It does it in relation to the standing wave. And you can, as this light's going through both ways, you don't know when it's going to explode. So you are kind of taking a movie, I suppose. And you may be able to time the time that it explodes at maybe every a certain number of time, but it's probably a little bit random. It would be much better to have a high-speed camera to take these pictures. I got what I got. I got another CCD camera that I spent money on. I can't afford to spend money on anything else. So anyway, there's that kind of a setup. Why that relationship between this little experiment, and you take this experiment, you put the cavity inside of the interferometer, which nobody's ever done. And so the lenses focus, they do another focus thing. And what they do, the purpose for that is you have the test object, and one side of the experiment is the test object focusing to a small point, which is actually like a little small circle. And then you've got the control beam is going in, and it is going down and focusing on top of the test object focus point. And so that focus point goes through the cavity, and you can see that focus point. You can record it on the camera. And so what is being focused is inside the tuning cavity. When the tuning cavity is not there, I don't know where the focus point is. I'm assuming it's where the test object is, right? Because the second mirror, what's done, I don't know what's done. I don't know, maybe the test object is moved back and forth. Maybe the second mirror has to be moved back, and the test object has to be moved in order for a focus point to appear. That has to be moved. The mirror that's inside, there's a mirror inside the tuning cavity that's moved ever so gently back and forth. I don't know what the relationship is between the test object and the mirror. I don't even know why they make interferometers, right? But I discovered that in order for me to do what I want to do with light, I have to have an interferometer to do it with. That is crazy, you know? It's like I just discovered this like only a month or so ago. And, you know, I'm putting all of these little bits and pieces of the puzzle, and I'm building this thing, and it's going to give me the whole picture. Like, this is so crazy. You know, I spent a lot of time doing this, and it's just crazy. And then I've had some things happen, weird things happen, and there's things happening that kind of, they feel like they detract you and they don't want you to build this thing. Well, I'm burned out, sort of, right? But I got the ability, you know, I got the options, I've got whatever it is I'm supposed to do, it's out there in order for me to put this thing together. Good Lord, I talked a lot, right? I still got a drink left. So, maybe electricity, some form of electricity, is the portal to speaking, is the portal. Electricity, electromagnetism is the portal to the dimensions beyond, maybe. You know, who knows these things? So, then we get to the point where we work on the circuits. We build the interferometer, and the circuits, the electronic circuits, what they're going to do is they're going to take the video picture, the video information, and convert it to an electronic form, so that we can actually listen to, we can convert the video portion, and we're looking for a noise on the side lobes, and if we get a noise, we can get rid of the carrier wave. That's the reason for the interferometer. The interferometer is a mechanical device outside of the electronic system that gets rid of the carrier, and it leaves you the noise. Okay? I know how to do this. Nobody's ever done this before. Well, actually, I take that back. It's been done in basic lightwave modulated circuits where you're using a laser to send a communication beam, and the other person, I'm not sure exactly how I think the entire beam, the entire light beam itself is modulated. Well, that's not what we're doing here, okay? That is not the true essence of radio technology. The true essence of radio technology is that the information is added to the beam and then sent out. The beam is received and then taken away to leave nothing but the information. Maybe frequency modulation does that. Amplitude modulation still does it. Anyway, that's what needs to be done. And so the test objects, when the light beam comes in and hits the test object vibrates. Everything has a vibrational state. And so it vibrates, and we're supposed to be able to pick off that vibration. Maybe that vibration works with electrons in such a way that it's able to bridge the gap between dimensions. You know, I could be wrong. And maybe what I'm really needing to look for is this spark of light in this resonant chamber. That's just crazy. You know, it's kind of, I really wasn't thinking about it. Like, why did I even know that, you know? Why did that even come into being is because of standing waves. I was going to draw a picture of the little thing with the standing waves. They're just kind of like up and down. It's like two waves. They're bands, actually. They're bands. And so when you do the slit experiment, you do the one slit, and then you do the two slits, and then you've got the Fourier transform, the picture. which accumulates over time. The little photons go in and they make the picture. Well, on the way to the picture, they create what's called interference. And the interference patterns are used to actually do holograms. And so, maybe there's a hologram aspect of this that could be done, where the light flashes, and as the light flashes, it sends a particular bit of information towards the hologram, and it's sitting there waiting, but it's going to disappear. So there needs to be a way, and so you can actually make a hologram inside this crystal. You could send this ultrasonic light into the K9 crystal, and maybe that would be the storage medium, okay? Because with the regular hologram, once the light goes in there, it disappears, because you're only seeing one particle of the hologram in this flash of light. It only has a chance to, and maybe it's a whole picture. God only knows, right? But the idea of sending that information to the K9 crystal and popping it into, using that as the three-dimensional picture, that's expensive, because once the crystal's built, it's gone and stuff, unless if you had a small one, it could do things. Or there's a different way to accumulate the information, like the hologram is built with the interference, the constructive and the deconstructive waves. There's cycles. They go up and down like this. They're two-dimensional, they're one-dimensional, they're two-dimensional. Well, yeah, they're one-dimensional, they're two-dimensional, and they're three-dimensional, all at the same time. And they're four-dimensional because it takes time, and they're five-dimensional because it takes space. So, what happens is when the particles go through the slits, they're curved. They come out as curves like this, okay? And so the plate, when the curves go into the plate, they come in at angles like this. They're all at angles. Some of them come in straight, and the rest of them come at angles. And it just so happens that the ones that come in straight are the fundamental, and the ones that come in at angle, they're the harmonics, right? And so you're doing something with the fundamental, you're getting rid of it, and you're leaving the side lobes, and you're trying to extract information from that. But what happens is that because this thing is curved, okay, it's curved, right? The waves come out as a curve because it's a point source. The photon is a point. And so when you move the plate closer and closer towards the point source, the curve becomes a straight line. If it's way out here, the information is going to dissipate. So you got to have the information as close to the source as you can in order to get a picture, but you can't have it too close, because if you do, what happens is it magnifies, and you're burying yourself down into this rabbit hole, and you're so close that you can't visualize everything. This movie Contact is a really, really good explanation of what could happen, the possibilities of what could happen. Intelligent beings are three-dimensional. They put things in slices and packets, and so you have to decode the packet, and the packet is three-dimensional, and it's an audio packet that's riding on a video packet, and the packets are in slices, and they have keys, and they're three-dimension, and all of this stuff is this is very, very possible. Why would intelligent beings just send audio signals, say hi, instead of, if they had the capability, send a whole crap load of information, details and schematics and all that stuff in just one packet, right? And they're just repeating the packet over and over and over again until finally somebody is able to take slices or whatever, and they put the pictures and put it all together, and all of a sudden the packet is now realized, and it can be expanded and decoded and everything else. The fact that Feynman, I believe was Feynman or whoever, said that the photons go in packets. They don't go in little blobs, so like packets and stuff. I really don't understand that aspect of it. There's other aspects that come into play that cause issues. I don't really care about that. My ideas of what I wanted to do have kind of changed a little bit, but I still incorporate the main idea, and then if there's something there, that's fine. If not, I don't want to get into a situation where there's nothing there, because I don't believe that. But the problem is I'm not trying to focus on it too much and say, yeah, there's something there, I need to try and decode it, yada yada yada, and I can't. It's just noise, right? There's different kinds of noise. There's a lot involved with this. There's colors of noise, and you've got to find out what the noise color is for each frequency, and then you've got to develop standards for each of those noise. And so when you see something that's not supposed to be there and it's in a certain noise area, you have to combine that with the standard noise, and you've got to do the same thing. You take out the standard noise, and that leaves you the noise you're trying to listen to. I think that's a thing. So, but anyway, we have to have circuits for that. There's circuitry for that. And so if we go to the picture viewer, and I'm in my different area, which I wasn't last night. Let's see here, my picture viewer, where is it here? I talk too much, don't I? Where's the fucking picture viewer? Right here. Alright, so circuits. So we have what's called, it's even in this particular circuit here, you have a signal coming in, and the first main object is to amplify the noise thing that we're trying to detect from the light. And so that noise could be wideband, it could be narrowband, it could be whatever. I don't really know. I do know that the JFET that I'm using, I think it goes up to 100 megahertz. That's not too bad. That's 1/10 of a gigahertz. It could be, that I'm listening to 1 gigahertz frequencies. I do have some SMT 1 gigahertz amplifiers, by the way, and they are ultra low noise. And I bought these things like years ago, and so I'd have to make the circuit board. It's just a small circuit board with some filtering and some mechanical filtering with the circuit. And there's even programs that will help you design the amplifier and so on and so forth. I may end up having to do that. I don't know. If I look at something and I listen to something, I say there's something here and I can't decode it, maybe it's of a wider bandwidth, and I have to have a wider bandwidth to extract this information. And the only way to do that would be with a 1 gigahertz SMT amplifier. It's easy enough to do. It's possible. So we've got in the circuit here, we've got that FET. That's your preamp. And then after the preamp, you've got your regular amplifier, which supposedly converts it up to 1 volt. So you're starting out with levels that are in the microvolt range. The light is detected. You've got to have a frequency response of the LED. Let me go here. Let's see. It's an opt 202. So it says it features a bandwidth of 50 kilohertz. The frequency photodiode by Burtex features a bandwidth of 50 kilohertz. This sets its primary frequency response limit, allowing it to accurately detect and amplify optical signals or light changes up to 50 kilohertz before the signal begins to attenuate. That's a bunch of shit, ain't it? Which is interesting. It says it includes an on-chip 1 megahertz, 1 mega ohm feedback resistor, setting a transimpedance gain. That's interesting. Let's see. Let's type in. Oops, you're really not seeing that, are you? Back to Edge again. To Edge? That's Firefox. What's the wrong Firefox? Is that Edge? Oh, why am I not seeing that though? Oh, I know why. It's because I'm using this one here. A 1 gigahertz light amp typically refers to an optical or radio RF amplifier designed to handle bandwidths of up to 1 megahertz. 1 gigahertz. These devices are widely used telecommunication, yada yada. For optical and high speed. Mauser high speed op amps, 1 gigahertz. That's an amplifier though. And they've got 80 to 1 gigahertz RF amplifier, but this is a light amp. Let's see what we got here. You can get samples. Common mode rejection ratio of 60 some odd dB. 1 gigahertz high speed. These are just op amps. They're not detectors. So if the light thing handles something at 50 kilohertz, how is it going to handle? Well, light itself is into the terahertz, right? And I don't really know. Honestly, I don't know. It's just one of those crazy things, I guess. You just do with what you got and you go for it, right? So, alright, so it's 50 kilohertz. Let's say that we're looking for something in the audio range, and that's its bandwidth. If it was something higher than that, wait just a minute here. Let me just go in. It's actually optical photodiode. Optical photodiode, the 1 gigahertz bandwidth is designed for capturing fast optical cells. There's actually the best for the near infrared. Indium gallium arsenide. Best for infrared communications. The silicon one, and there's Thor Labs. To achieve 1 gigahertz bandwidth, optical detectors often require 50 ohm termination, etc. If you like, silicon pin diode. It's that stupid ass website that blocks everything. Holy shit, what is this here? High speed response. The S5973 is a high speed SI pin photodiode designed for visible to near light detection. This photodiode provides wideband characteristics at low bias, making them suitable for optical communications and photometry. Data sheet. bet I could get samples of this, you know what? Where is this from? Hamamatsu. High speed response. Let's see. Shit. Let me go back to my thing here. We're looking at ops. 202 is what I got for a photodiode. Bandwidth. Goes up to 100 kilohertz. Voltage noise. What would be the purpose of a photodiode that has a 50 kilohertz bandwidth? Moisture sensitivity. Okay, well, crap with that. Voltage response to radiant power. Voltage response versus irradiativity, frequency, performance curves, output noise voltage versus measurement bandwidth. 50 kilohertz is here. RF 100 megohms, noise voltage. Noise voltage goes up to 1 millivolt at 1 megahertz. That's why it wouldn't respond to that, because the noise voltage is too high. Like, I sort of don't know. That's not what I want. What the hell is I forget where I was looking now. I lost it. How did I lose it? What the hell? That is so weird. I just lost what I was looking at. That is so freaking weird. What the hell? Gas photodiode bandwidth. It's so weird that I just lost that web page. It's crazy shit like that happens. It just bugs the crap out of me. Alright, so that's the data sheet there. Yeah. Let me see if I can get a wavelength, cutoff frequency response. What does that say? Relative output. 0 dB at 100 megahertz. It goes down at 1 gigahertz. This is a photodiode. Why did I end up with these 50 kilohertz? Let's see what this stuff is I'm looking on Amazon. It doesn't say anything about bandwidth, does it? Bear with me here, I'm doing some crap. I slept for 4 or 5 hours on and off, and I wasn't supposed to. Oh my, I'm gonna lose it, I swear to God. These idiots don't know how to freaking spell. Is not a standardized to a high frequency gigahertz spec. Caps in the kilohertz to low megahertz range. I'm looking at a particular type of diode on Amazon, and this particular type of diode This one translates usable bandwidth approximately 3 megahertz to 10 megahertz. This is a 10 megahertz photodiode. They seem to have plenty of those. That's bigger than 50 kilohertz. Let me just bear with me here. Getting there. So there's this one here. You get 5 pieces for $7, and it goes up to 3 to 10 megahertz. There's a spec sheet. Temperature, reverse dark current does go way down when the temperature goes down. What's the operating range? -40. Hell yeah. Response, reverse voltage. It's got a low sensitivity around 350 nanometers. It's not giving me a frequency response. What the fuck? Diode capacitance at 1 megahertz. Wavelength of range of spectral bandwidth, noise equivalent, ambient temperature. It doesn't tell you what the bandwidth is. It just says it's a high speed dude, but doesn't give you the bandwidth. Here it says 3 to 10 megahertz. Let's see what this one says. Oh, it's the same damn sheet. What the hell? Wait. Music's driving me up a wall. Not anymore. There's another one here. Oh my god, what the fuck? Static chip.Russia? freaking late again for me. They're all giving me the same data sheet. This one says response time 20 nanoseconds. They're like $1.82 a piece, $2 a piece, 12. You're getting them from half price on Amazon. Response time 20 nanoseconds. Okay. $50 megahertz. Okay. I copied that. What else here? That's the BPW34. DU3 only goes up to like, what did it go up to? I think it was 10 megahertz. And that's like the same price. It says under 100 kilohertz for that other one. So there's only one of them. There's only one for sale at that price, one grouping, and they have them. Of course, they all come from China. What else does this guy sell? One of 16,300. Oh God, he's got a freaking scarab beetles in a necklace. Power converters. He's got a bunch of weird stuff here. Well, that's interesting. Oh, they got weird little trinkets. There's some cool shit over there. We don't do nothing, you know? What are these? Fake jewelry and shit. There's some opal. Tanzanite. Oh, there's the diodes. Damn. He's got all this other crap in here. And then the diodes in there. Yeah. Looks like I'll be getting those. Alright, so that takes care of that mess. I want to go back into the circuits and try to get this done. So yeah, that's the preamp. And what else is in here? So, okay, so those other diodes would be good to compare with this one, you know? This op 202 that I got. So that's my circuit right there. That's my 3819 that I got. And the idea is to put the photodiode in the circuit, and yeah. Let me see something here. It's this one. Oh, this is a big one. Oh, this is a good one on that particular transistor. I mean diode. Pt28, right? Of course, I would lose it now. Yeah, right there. Are those 2-pin? Not very good pictures. Yeah, they're 2 pins. Okay, that's just the photodiode or whatever it's got in there. Where the hell am I? Okay, I got that. I'm just looking for. Oh, it does have the circuits. Let me see if I can just jump down here really quick. Well, it's just a diode. A resistance of greater than 10 meg ohms. Current 10 microamps to 100 microamps. Okay, 10 microamps. That's okay. Dark and light measurements, so on and so forth. 10k ohm resistor, yada yada. This should not be a problem. Fichet, I don't know what that is. Measurement techniques. Diode. Switching characteristics. Pulse duration. Yada. Photodiode photovoltaic mode. Operating with a voltage amplifier. Okay, so they're using this in very basic circuits. This is not going to be a problem. So that's an FET amp. I can put it in front. I can do it just like the other one, depending on resistances, whatever. Here's another one with the combined 3904, some other stuff. So these are all circuits that I'm going to try at some point in life if I ever get my crap together. There's another preamp circuit. The FET is the preamp circuit, but there's another one, and this is one of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the photodiode and I'm going to connect it to the LT1028. The LT1028 is an op amp. It's a very low noise op amp, and I'm going to design. Oh wait, this has got an FET preamp in front of it. That's not. That's one of them. Maybe that's like the second one. But there's another one. It's a function generator. Oh God, it's not in here. It might be on the op 202. Does that show up? This is. See, I don't know. The one that I have doesn't look like the one that they're showing. They're showing like an IC kind of a thing with a built-in op amp. And mine, I don't think it has a built-in op amp, but I don't know. And so They do show a circuit with a built-in op-amp circuit, which if it's just a diode, then it's saying that it's the op202. But the op202, this one has it's got the plus and minus voltage, it's got the output of the amplifier, and it has the input and output of the diode. This thing only has, well, I didn't really look at it to see how many pins it has. I don't know. I'm not pulling it out now. I'll have to figure it out later. That's fine. That's all my circuits. Yeah, it's this. We'll go back to this one here. There's a circuit that I saw with the diode closer to the LT1028, and I don't know where it is. Let's see. Let me go to here again. Let's see if I can do it this way. I'm just gonna drop my picture for now. I'm just about done. I gotta go back to sleep. Crap. Microsoft Edge. It's like I got two of these things going, you know. S5973. This is the 1 gigahertz one. Newark Electronics. They're like $1 or something. How do I buy it? $13 ready to ship. Is this Samamatsu? Maybe I can get some samples, you know? $20 for one. $20 for one of them. I got the 50 megahertz one. Well, that even goes up to 100. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. Let me go to, let's do this. Okay, so we're gonna do because I saw a circuit and it wasn't with the FET. Is it this one? That's a TLO81. Okay, I'm just going to go back to my video. I've got a TLO81. I want to do as simple a circuit as possible. Here's another one. This one does not have the LT1028. Goes a diode into the FET, and then ultra low noise photodiode amplifier. Okay, there's that. What else? It's LT1028. What's this one here? Operating photodiode with less than 3 millivolts across it eliminates leakage currents. Okay, here's a simple one. Now the impedances might be off, but still, it's a generalized circuit. And it's what I want to do is develop sort of like a standard that works, and then here's a 741. I'm looking for an op-amp circuit to do a standard, and then from there I go to my discrete components and work off the standard to try to create a better standard is what I'm doing. And I got to create the modulation circuit. There's one here. Noise analysis and a preamplifier. Whatever the hell that is. What's this one here? Problems with op-amp for photodiode. That's the 5 gig ohm one, which I don't have. There's a circuit there. The capacitor, I found out, was to prevent this thing from oscillating at 1 megahertz or something. So there's a thing there. Photodiode is converted to whatever the hell it's converted to. I don't like the looks of that circuit, but it's simple. Here's one here. Resistance of the diode, capacitance of the diode, TLO81. Visit this page. An avalanche diode. There's the formula for the noise. That I formula, current, and so on. Photo current, signal gain, whatever. He's got some shit in there. I do my best work late at night. God help me. I'll sleep good tonight. What's this here? LT1028 to make a MCMM LP player preamp. What the hell is MC cartridge? Something to do with the phonograph. I don't know what the hell that is. Shit. Is that it? I guess that's it, huh? I think I got some circuits to go on. But what is this one? Yeah, that's what I was looking at. That's an op 07 though. I could try this one and use various op amps. That's probably what I'm looking for. You know what? And a capacitor in here to prevent the feedback. That'd be something to start with. But I've only got 5 photodiodes. I wonder if the Amazon's got, just out of curiosity. The Opt 202. Oh, they're just showing that one. Oh, they don't have the Opt 202. They got photosensitive diodes, but those are, what the hell? For a smart car. Photosensitive diode sensor light detection module. Opt 101 with the little circuit. They want $14.99 for that. And that's it. It's like that's all they got. So, I'm done. We learned a few things about my circuits. We learned about this stupid, weird experiment that's supposed to be added to the system. And, you know, whether that's actually going to be part of it or not, I mean, I don't know. Being able to take pictures, slice them in time, and try to turn the thing around and make a visual picture of it. All interesting stuff. I'm headed off to sleep.